Hey guys, this is Fady from Harvey Production Studio, and welcome to the control room. I've had several people on the YouTube channel have requested a tour of the control room and then just kind of figure out the setup and how I have my control room set up, and when I built it from scratch, what did I do, and just some recommendations of what I've done. So in this video, we're just going to walk through the control room and just show you guys my setup, and I hope that is helpful to give you ideas for some of your setups. So starting from the live room here, you guys see I've put in double glass doors. They're exterior doors, and I put 2 of them to help a lot with the soundproofing. Also, all these walls and ceiling, they're completely insulated with several layers of rock wool safe and sound and mass loaded vinyl before we put the sheetrock. And the ceiling is completely suspended. The ceiling was completely suspended. This was actually one of the hardest things that we've done in this room, and I'll try to put some pictures. So we basically, when I built this, I wanted to make sure that the room is completely sound treated from upstairs, as our main living room is upstairs. I want to make sure that when kids are playing or being loud upstairs, I don't have any noise. And what we ended up doing, if I walk you through the layers of what I've done, so we have an engineered hardwood floors as the first layer, which is a floating installation. Then below that, we have recycled rubber that is about 1/2 inch thick that works as a pad below the engineered hardwood floors. Then you have the subfloor. Then below that, you have 1/2 inch thick of mass loaded vinyl, which is extremely thick sound dampening or sound blocking. Then you have the ceiling joists. Then inside the ceiling joist was about 9 inch. I have three 3-inch layers of rock wool safe and sound, so that way the entire thing is completely filled. And then all the pipes, water pipes, plumbing, and everything related to water pipes and plumbing, I made sure that it's wrapped with sound dampening material, similar to the ones that they use in car for sound dampening. And then after that, we sealed the bottom, which is the top of the ceiling right here, with another layer of mass loaded vinyl, so it always works like a sandwich. Then after that, we used these rubber clips, it's like an 1.5 inch rubber clips that have these metal hooks to it. And then we attached metal furring channels to it, so that way these metal furring channels works as the new mount for the sheetrock, but now the sheetrock is decoupled from the ceiling joists, and that way we don't have a lot of vibration, which is the biggest thing for translating sound from top floor to bottom floor, specifically the low end, which is the hardest to insulate and sound treat. And then when we did this, we used the 5/8 sheetrock. It's a little bit thicker, and then we mounted this to the furring channels, completely decoupled from the ceiling joist. And then when we ran it to the edges, like when we ran it to the corners between the ceiling and the walls over here, we made sure that we run it at about 1/8 inch short. And a lot of you are probably familiar with green glue, which is a special caulking solution that you can caulk that 1/8 inch gap with it, and it absorbs vibration, and it makes sure that the vibration is not being translated from the sidewalls to the ceiling and vice versa. Then obviously after this, I did a lot of ceiling panels, and the biggest one that I did in this room is this back wall panel right here. And what it is, it's an actual, and I have a separate video on my YouTube channel. You can look up the details and the specs. This wall back here is a 6-inch thick wall that I framed after they finished building the main wall. And the entire 6-inch is filled with rock wool safe and sound, as well as these base corner traps. They're 24-inch by 24-inch, so they're pretty deep to absorb a lot of the low end frequency, especially because I'm using the MM27s, which each speaker has 2 10-inch subs in it, which has a lot of low end, so I want to make sure that my low end is very well treated in the room. Then the rest of the panels, I kind of build all of them myself. These, they're all 3-inch thick rock wool safe and sound panels, pretty standard. And those ceiling clouds are the same. They're 6-inch thick instead of 3. And then one is above the sweet spot for me for mixing, and then the other one is right above the client's position. The only panels that I did not build myself in this room are these ones in the corner back here. So in these corners, I have top and bottom panel. The top one is a standard bass trap that I got from GIK Acoustics, which is their standard bass traps. And then the bottom ones are actually tuned membrane bass traps. And what it was is when I tuned the room and I ran just room tuning microphone using the REW software, I've realized that I have a lot of 42 hertz exactly in this room. And then these bass traps, they're amazing because when you order them from GIK, you can tell them hey guys, I want it to be tuned to a specific frequency. So you're kind of eliminating that specific frequency in your room that you're getting, but you're not killing all the low end. And then they give you room measurements and they tell you how many you would need and the placement. So I ended up with 4 of them, 2 on each corner in the back of the room. They don't have to be in a specific place. I think you can distribute them in among the room because low end is omnidirectional. As long as there's no low end buildups in specific parts of the room, you should be fine. Then the other thing in this room, which is kind of like the heart of the studio, is this desk, which I absolutely love that desk. This is the Producer XL from Buso Audio, which you have on the rack sides in here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unit rack on each side. So 6 on this side, 6 on that side. And then if I move the camera down below here, you guys can see, you'll see these are also racked all the way from the top. I believe it's 14 unit rack all the way to the bottom. And then it's on both sides of the desk. I also love, this is the biggest size one, which is the 88XL. So you have a tray in here that is big enough for, this is an 88 keyboard, and it's a pretty heavy one as well. And you still even have a little bit of space on each side left on both sides. You guys can see it here, which is really handy. And then that middle section from right here until right here, because this is the Producer XL, so it's really wide. You can actually, I used to have here a 49-inch ultra-wide Samsung screen, and it would fit in between that section. Like you guys see, I have the Avid S3, and I got plenty of space. I have a 27-inch 4K display that just sits on a VESA mount tripod behind it. And then I got 2 15-inch portable displays, and then I got plenty for space for all of them. And on the back side here, I got 65-inch, just a Vizio TV, 65-inch TV. And then I kind of work between all 4 displays for my setup. For speakers, I used to have the Dyna Audios, and when I switched to the Micromains, the MM27, the Gen 2 was the Meme technology, which gets you 4 sets of speaker, gets you hi-fi, flat, old school, which is similar to the NS10, and cubes, which is similar to the Avantone cubes. I kind of got rid of the other speakers because this honestly did the job for me for everything that I needed. I used the M908 as my monitor controller, as well as Final Room Correction DSP for room tuning. Absolutely love that unit, and it's becoming, everything in that studio is routed into this unit. And it's incredible to have its own mastering converters for listening from digital to analog to the speakers. And it fully supports Dolby Atmos, which is one of the things I'm working toward, is having a full Dolby Atmos setup in this studio at some point soon. You guys can see here, here's a lot of the stuff in the front of my desk are mostly the mixing stuff, like for mix buses. Here's a dual stereo compressor from Summit Audio. Here's the API 2500. This unit is a really cool unit from RME, which is an ADAT and MADI converter, converts back and forth between ADAT and MADI. TC Electronic and this is the TC Electronics, checking all my levels and samples. And on this side, I got the Fusion on the top for my mix bus. And then I also have the West Audio Titan. And I really like that one because it have built-in USB on the back, so you can do the digital recall for all the West Audio units without having to use front-end USBs. And I'm using 2 units from the West Audio. I'm using the Prometheus, which is their Pultec EQ, stereo Pultec EQ, and then I'm using their Dione, which is similar to their G-Bus compressor, with some more features actually, because they have a mix knob on it, they have a saturation knob on it, which is how much you're pushing the transformers. And then on the EQ one, it's a stereo EQ. So this is a solid state Pultec, not a tube one, but it also has mid-side and works as dual mono as well, which is really comes in handy for a lot of times for tracking as well. Then I have the Neve 542, which is their tape saturation, as well as the Silk saturation blue and red. Then on this side, I had a friend of mine, his name is Trey Murphy. Shout out to Trey for custom building this rack unit for me. He did a phenomenal job building this. And on this unit, on the right side, it has my preamps. So I have the 4710, 4-channel, and then I have the 6176, which is a 610, and then an 1176 compressor. And then I also use the Super 8, which is an 8-channel Heritage Audio, and all are 1073. Then below that, you guys see my 473, which is a Vintech Audio 4-channel. Then below that, you see the Worm Audio 412, which is 4 channels, which is similar to the APIs. Then below that is my patch bay. I use the Flock Audio patch, which I have a full video on YouTube talking about this and how I use it. It's an incredible unit to allow you for flexible routing with digital recall and simplifies the whole patch process. And on this side, I got currently my main interface, which is the Antelope Orion 32 Plus Gen 4. And then this is just some shortcuts for front inputs. And then I use the Dangerous Music 2-bus LT. And this is my summing unit, 16-channel summing mixer. Then I recently got the Pultec EQ from Audioscape, which is a tube one. I use that a lot for vocal chains and really like it. Those are extra 8-channel pre's. They're really super clean by Precision. It's called Precision 8 by True Systems, and they're 8-channel microphone preamps, super clean, no coloration or anything. They help me if I needed just extra channels in my studio. And then I got a pair of the Worm Audio WA2A, which is their version of the LA2A. I really like that one. Then down here, this is just extra headphone pre's, and then below that is the old school V72 stereo pre's, which those things are absolutely magical on electric guitars. And then for keyboards, I'm using, so this is the Prophet Sequential, and it's the modular unit. And this is my Poly D from Behringer, which I use it a lot for synth bass mostly. My main keyboard here that I use is the Studio Logic SL88 Grand. It's a MIDI controller, so it does not have any sounds in it. I love the touch response of this unit, and the unit is, I believe all the keys are made by Fatar, and they're actually real wood. I don't know if you guys can see it here. They're actual wood, not plastic keys, which is amazing. Then for MIDI controllers, I have my Avid S3, which I use just for mixing on Pro Tools because it's a Yukon protocol and it integrates flawless with Pro Tools with all the settings in it. I also have this little controller, which is really cool. It's made by Intech Studio Ltd. And they basically, they have different shapes and formats, and then they have their own software that you can program these to be anything. There's some buttons and knobs, and then they're all magnetic on the sides, so you combine more and stack them, and then you can expand to more MIDI faders, which is really cool. And then I also use the Akai APC. This is my main Ableton controller that I use on stage or a lot of the Ableton routing, because it just works flawless with Ableton. It integrates real well. I also have here old school PC88. So this thing is built like a tank. Still use it every now and then, mostly as a MIDI controller, but I really like it. And I use it every now and then when I have bigger sessions and I need more than one keyboard. For headphones, I use the Sennheiser's HD 600 for reference. They have some really good mid-range as well as top end, not a lot of bottom end. I also have the VSX from Slate, and I use them sometimes for referencing my mixes to make sure that my stuff sounds good on different platforms. Another thing I did in my office here that I'm very grateful for is being able to implement a little bit of natural light. I got a couple windows in the office. My previous studio had no natural light, which I spent a lot of hours in here, so it's very helpful to get some natural light. Anyways, this is the full, simple tour of the control room. If you have any questions about any of the gear or stuff that I'm using, there's a lot of individual videos on my channel explain some of this, but if you can't find them in any of the videos, make sure you leave your question in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer it. I'll see you guys at the next video.